Hey there, guys. Welcome to this week's Cosmedi Pros. Today I have with me the legend himself, Mr. Paul Clark. Paul, welcome to the show.
Cheers, man. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Great for coming on. So, for those who don't know, Paul has been involved with Scalp Micropigmentation for, I think, about 14 years now, since 2010, 2009.
Yeah, this October will be my 15th year in SMP.
A very long career in, we kind of know from other people I've talked, S&P is still rather new. So, someone with that amount of experience, I'm sure we are going to learn a lot and get some insights into maybe how things started.
No pressure.
So, no pressure, yeah, Paul. Expose it all. So, yeah, Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit first how you actually got involved in S&P? I'm sure it's going to be quite different for you because how did you
Yeah.
actually hear about S&P 14 years ago and start coming
Well,
into the business?
well, it all starts on a dark and stormy night. Nah. So basically, I have always been influenced by art. I've I've kind of lived and breathed art as an early child, and I knew I always wanted to do something artistic in my life. Don't give me, I've had the jobs, the 9 to 5 jobs. I worked in toy stores, bookshops, and every job I had was just made me depressed. It wasn't artistic, and I would just crave that kind of world where I can create on a daily basis, and that naturally led to becoming starting a tattoo apprenticeship back in the day. Early 2009, I started my tattoo apprenticeship, and back then it was like, it wasn't something where Instagram was, well, I don't think Instagram was even existed then. I don't think, no, it wasn't. You had to really graft and prove yourself as an artist to even get into the tattoo world. And I felt like my work had a niche. I specialize in like kind of traditional stuff, which was a bit dark. And I've managed to land a very good tattoo apprenticeship in Birmingham. Shout out to Dawny from the Painted Lady Studio. She gave me a big break. Bless her. I love that woman to bits. And yeah, and the tattoo apprenticeship didn't pay. So I had to get a little side hustle. And it wasn't nothing exciting. It was working at Starbucks. And I used to have regular customers come in, and I've always been able to speak to people. I like speaking to people, getting to know new people. And there was always this guy with what looked like a shaved head coming to Starbucks all the time. And I kept on seeing him, and I was just like, something's weird about how this guy looks. And I instantly thought to myself when I saw this guy, this is a hair tattoo, but no one would be crazy enough to do that. Like back in 2009, I would like, what? Especially what he was rocking. It wasn't natural. So I instantly was drawn to it. So it was a very low, straight hairline, boxing, shaped up to the inch of its life. What I believe doesn't suit white guys, and he was a white guy. And I just started talking to him, and I just started to get to know him. And one day he saw my tattoos on show, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't know you was tattooed." I was like, "Yeah, doing a tattoo apprenticeship. I love doing all this sort of stuff. I love doing art." And he was like, "Oh, did you know that I've had my hairline tattooed?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he
Yeah,
was like,
saw it.
"What? Really?" So I had to call him out. I was just being honest. I was just like, "Yeah, I did." And he's like, "How did you know?" I was like, "Well, I could tell by the shape, how low, how it disconnects the anatomy of your face." And he was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, I'm a bit of an artist, a bit of an art freak. I've studied realism and all that still life drawing. So I started talking about and dissecting his own treatment. And he was like, "This is exactly what I need. I need someone to help me develop the procedure even more." Fast forward, I was like so excited to go to the clinic. He invited me to the clinic. I got there, and I started like speaking to people who were waiting for a consultation. And I was speaking to people who were really down about their appearance and their hair loss. And I've always not wanted to lose my hair. I've not gone through any hair loss experience and stuff like that. Maybe I've slightly matured in the corners, but these guys were really down in the dumps about their own appearance. And as I was talking to them, I started getting like butterflies in my stomach, and I started getting like this really exciting feeling that the art world here could help the medical world, and the art world helping people regain their confidence, which was just mind blowing for me. Because I'll go back a little bit. When I remember at school, they asked me what I wanted to do when I was older, and I said I wanted to be an artist, and they said, "Oh, you can never be an artist because there's no money in it. You got to pick a stable, safe job." So this was kind of like an up yours to the teacher who said that. And I was like, you know what? Screw you. Like, I found my path here. So the owner of the company, which I won't mention for personal reasons because no one likes him, might get a bit controversial on this podcast, so bear with me. So he was like, do you wanna start? And I was like, yeah, 100%. So within my first week of being there, they weren't treating many people. It was like maybe one client a week, and I was just sitting in this converted house into a clinic, just going, oh, no one's here to guide me or teach me anything. And I was just thinking, man, like, I've made a mistake here. I've left one of the best tattoo apprenticeships in the UK to work for this new guy doing MHT back then, by the way. It was called micro hair technique back in the day, MHT. And I was just like, man, I need to go back to my tattoo parlor. So I rang up my tattoo artist and I said, look, I want to come back. I've made a mistake. Please have me back. And she was like, look, you've always got a chair here, but tell me what's going on. And I said, look, I've been here for a week. I've not been taught anything. I was just randomly stabbing a banana with no guidance. And I remember I did it on purpose, horrendously. And I went, how's that? And he went, perfect. And I was like, wow, okay, I know what kind of people I was dealing with. When they was doing a procedure, I request to wear a mask because I was cringing underneath it, so you couldn't see my face. So I was like this, but underneath I was like trying to keep my cool, because what I was seeing wasn't looking realistic, and the hairlines and everybody was shaped up. And then my tattoo artist, while I was explaining all this, she went, well, why don't you come up with your own technique? And I was like, And I was like, yeah, I think I can. And I'm one of these people where I can problem solve. I feel like I can problem solve really quickly or get some kind of game plan in order. So instantly I had this idea of not cramming it into 2 sessions, what it was back then. It was the logic was oversaturation, going dark and going low as possible. And the logic, what I felt was in and out, get them in and out. So I turned to the owner of the business and said, look, I've got my own technique. I started practicing behind closed doors. I used to kind of time myself how long the actual density building would take. I was always trying out new hairlines. And eventually, after about a week or so, I came up with this technique, this 3-session process. And my process was like, I understand that the skin is not, you can't predict what the canvas is going to do. I've treated twin brothers before, and you can assume without any education that they would both have the same treatments, same shades and all this sort of stuff. And they were completely different canvases. So my logic was to look at this as art. So when I draw at home, I don't go with the darkest, fattest pencil with prominent lines. I get a very weak pencil to start off with and start mapping out the area. And I started bringing the artistic world into the SMP world. So I said to myself, right, instead of just doing this in 2 sessions and cramming it, I want to do it over 3 sessions. And I want the first session to be about safety and template. Second session, commit to a bit more darkness and density. And the third session, perfecting. And the owner of the business was like, no, we need the money quicker. We need the money in and out faster. I was like, no, that's right. If you do it this way, I guarantee that people will fly from all corners of the globe to get the realism. It's not about painting slap job and getting them out. It's about worrying the public. It's about convincing the public. So that was always been my approach, is I want to convince as many people that SMP is the best hair loss solution. And fast forward, so he was like, yeah, okay, dude, you got a client. If it goes wrong, you've got to pay for laser. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. And fast forward 3 weeks later, he saw the treatment. He saw the healed results. The client's feedback was phenomenal. He told me about his journey, about how he didn't feel like he was rushed. He felt like he had room to evolve into the look because he was this in between stage between the first and second session. It wasn't a big shock to general public. It was like friends and family were like, "Oh, you're letting your hair grow," because it was like a faint haze. So it just helped him psychologically as well. And technical wise, it helped me develop the technique as well and layer it safely and add more detail to it. And that was it. I think it was like within a week and a half, 2 weeks, I was made head practitioner, head trainer, and I ended up writing a manual this thick, which was known to be the world's first biggest comprehensive SMP manual, which has been the stepping stone for so many popular artists to this day, because a lot of artists came through this company and branched off. And that was wild because I was like, I'm only 2 weeks in and I've just been promoted, and I end up writing a manual by not even lifting up a pencil. I was doing treatments and I had a ghostwriter in the corner of the room going, "What else do you do next?" "Yeah." "And what else?" "Yeah." Yeah. So I wasn't professional. I was doing the treatment and writing a book at the same time. Well, manual. And yeah, and that's how now I'm perceived in the SMP world as the innovator and pioneer of modern day SMP. So yeah, so SMP has been around. It's been called variations and different techniques, but the technique what is practiced most commonly around the world now over the 3 sessions came from this bad boy here, this little brain. Not many good things come from this brain, I'll be honest. But SMP and the modern day evolution of the technique, yeah, that was me.
Yeah, that's incredible. Just like, a chance meeting for a coffee, and kind of turn into that. And yeah, definitely that's the standard. Like from anyone I've sort of talked to, that is just how it's done now. I know there's maybe a couple who try and push quicker modes, but yeah, that's still like the accepted standard, sort of 14 years later, I think. So from that practice, is it still pretty much the same as you incorporated it then, or like over the years, have you did it further?
So the 3 session process, like now I do 4 sessions now, and I've always liked doing 4 sessions, and that's how I've evolved. It don't sound much, but for me it's a big deal. I don't want to assume that my client is done after 3 sessions. I need to see them back. I need to see them in front of me and go, yes, you've got my seal of approval. I can put my name to that. So now I like doing 4 sessions, and I normally do them after about 2 months after the 3rd session. And I just like, and that 4th session is very minimal. It's nothing very big or anything like that, but I just love it because I feel like I'm looking after my client. I'm doing justice to myself and doing justice to the artwork. I'm making sure that my client feels comfortable with their appearance. If they've got tricky skin, it's an opportunity to do that. Regarding of like the evolution of the step-by-step process, I haven't really veered off that because it's just so safe and it's so like it works to the T. And when something works and you can predict the outcome and you're always pleasantly surprised and the client's appearance and safety is not jeopardized, I won't veer off that. I will never try to cram it in sooner and faster and quicker because, like I said, you're working on a canvas that you cannot predict. So you can't assume that the skin is going to be this way so you can cram them in and get them out. You can't. And if you're going to do that, guarantee you're going to hurt people. Guarantee you're going to hurt people. And I know that for a fact because I've seen it. I've been around the block a lot. You can see part of the grey hairs in my beard. Is that I've seen this. I've seen everything in SMP. I've seen everybody try to do 1 day. I've seen people do 2 days, you name it. I've seen so many fads. And when I see it in real life, it looks horrendous. So the 3 session method has been a game changer. One thing I focused personally on was hairlines. Back in the day in the forums, and it was all forums, there was no places to talk online, it was just forums. Everybody was crying out, going, yeah, I like SMP, I like the logic, but I don't like them shaped with hairlines. Just don't like it. And I think in England, I think we more navigate towards natural. You know, don't get me wrong, there are people out there what suit shaped up hairlines, but I'm just a big advocate for being natural. And I could see people in the clinic, because I weren't allowed to draw hairlines for a bit because the owner wanted everybody to have the same shape up look, and I hated it. So when he done the shape and I knew he was going out for the afternoon, I would rub it out, make it a little bit receded, and I wouldn't do fine, crisp lines. I'd break them up. And then that went on the forum, and people was like, "Oh, Paul broke my hairline up." And then I saw the major feedback from that. And I was like, yes, I know I'm on the right path now. I'm being a bit naughty by breaking the rules, but I know that I can turn this into something more realistic. So I went on a one-man mission to make new hairlines, new textures, innovate hairlines like the jagged, the feathered, the hybrid, and shadow. And not many people are even doing this. This is why I have so many people come from all corners of the globe to come and get these unique hairlines. So I took it upon myself to really transform the hairline textures and styles so it caters for everybody. So yeah, so it's evolved massively regarding pigments, needles, and techniques with actual hairlines and shapes and theory as well. So yeah, I don't know what the question was.
Yeah, you've explained the history now. It was either you developed the technique anymore, but essentially, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You kind of nailed it right at the start.
Yeah, I wouldn't knock anybody trying to do it, but if you're putting clients' appearances at risk and your focus is to get them in sooner and faster out because you want to make quicker money, completely the wrong logic. Completely the wrong logic. I always say to my clients, this is not a race. This is a marathon, and you are a work of art. And I need to build you up, and I need to layer it and texturize it. And only once you see the step-by-step process, you'll start believing in it. You know, the feedback is like people love that. People used to dread the first session. People love the first session now with the amazing, oh my God, with them. Like I'm not a sponsored artist. I'm not sponsored by anybody. But the fact that companies, the tattoo world, there's a company called Bishop that developed the most amazing handsets and needles. These needles now have actually made me a better artist because I feel like now I have tools that can like help me to build my visions and my creations. Where back in the day, it was one standard needle. It was a top secret pigment, top secret needle, crap needle. Like one out of box of 10 would be good. Do you know what I mean? But like fact like Bishop's coming in and changing the game. Oh my God. So that's helped me evolve as an artist and evolve the treatment as well.
How has the awareness and acceptance of it like changed? Because I still find a lot of people like don't actually know what SMP is. I still explain it to, and it's obviously more known now and since I've been experienced, but I can imagine 10 years ago even, or so has it kind of changed quite a lot, and where do you think still needs to be done to get more awareness out there?
So back in the day, people used to run into the clinic with their coats over their heads. And you'll see out the window, you're like, oh my God, is this a celebrity or something? Their wives will help them and cover their heads and then come in. And you're like, okay, it's just a normal person who doesn't like his hair loss. And there was like this stigma that like, I don't want my head tattooed. I don't want my head tattooed. I don't want a hair tattoo. So, you know, marketing people were trying to call it something else. Scalp Micropigmentation. I was actually there in the meeting when the term SMP was coined. It was MHT for such a long time, and then it changed to SMP. And they tried to make it its own identity. It's not a hair tattoo, but you know, I come from the tattoo world. When you dip a needle into pigment and that goes into the skin, that is a tattoo. But the general public were terrified about the word tattoo. So they, you know, there was a lot of kind of misinformation where we just had to put up and shut up as artists if we wanted to keep our jobs. No, it's not a tattoo, and no, it's not this, and it's not this, and it's not special, it's a special pigment and all this sort of stuff. And people did not want to talk about it. And it was only when, I'm not saying I'm the one who should take all the credit here, but when I took it upon myself to make it look more realistic, and when these forums and when these people were looking in the mirror and seeing what I did to them and going on forums like, poor dude gave me this jagged hairline, brand new, and he's gave me something called a peaked hairline. This sort of stuff started going crazy and crazy over the forums, and people, when I actually tell you a quick story, when I created the jagged hairline, I think it was like 85% of our old clientele came back in and had the jagged hairline. That's when I knew I hit something. That's when I knew I hit something special. And what happened then, it evolved into people looking in the mirror, being convinced by the natural look, and then going out to the world, and no one's saying anything. And these clients were saying to themselves, I'm fooling everybody here. And what happened then, what was once an apprehensive thought becomes a shoulders back, chest out, and you go, have a few bevies and go, lads, just to let you know, I've got my head tattooed. And it was because that clientele fooled people and believed in it. And then the response then was like, no way have you, mate. So yeah, I've had it done. And then that inspired other people. And over the years, from like back in, like, I came to the industry late 2009, but like we'll call it like from there to now, it's just naturally evolved. So it started with forums and people believing in the looks, and then word of mouth. And then you had the likes of Facebook and Instagram was, I think Instagram has been the biggest thing for our industry, where, when you get a picture of someone who can rock their full face and be proud of it, that starts giving inspiration to others, and it makes it like, oh, if that guy can get it done, why the hell can't I get it done? Do you know what I mean? He looks good. I will look good with that. I want that. So I think like Instagram and Instagram has propelled us into this new era where the clientele now, we're seeing body modifications, we're seeing lip fillers, Botox, everything. And now the male equivalent is get the hairline done. And it's like, well, if that person can get that done, or that person can wear a wig, why couldn't I do this? And the more we see faces and good looking blokes, and well, any bloke really, and women having this treatment done, just inspires and kind of reinforces that this is a good hair loss solution. So I think that's kind of like the little bit of a quick evolution of where we are today. And yeah, I think don't get me wrong, you do get clients like, I don't want no one to know, and that's their prerogative. I get that. But what happens is they start off like that, and then 6 months down the line, they send me a picture of their holiday and go, have that, mate, put it on everywhere. So it's about slowly people coming forward and showing their faces and saying, look, this can be an amazing solution to hair loss.
And it's getting a little bit more, especially in the UK now as well, accepted, like for men to get cosmetics as well. I think that's been a bit of a stigma for a while. But I think, yeah, even like on the aesthetics now, I know some of them are kind of, like, you've got men getting the Botox and stuff like that. It's a bit more openly now. So I think, yeah, just as it comes more accepted.
Not me, yeah. I've still got my Gordon Ramsay tram line.
Still got that. Thanks.
Still got that. I'm still rocking that for a little bit. I might have to go for the just for men soon, but we'll see.
So that's brought you to where you are today. So now you've got obviously your own practice, Legends SM. So how long? Because you worked under another clinic, didn't you, for quite a while?
Yes. So yeah. So I've.
We can talk about that. I don't know, but yeah, just in terms of like.
Nah. So I've always, So I worked for a big company, and then I was inspired to set up another company, which was Brandwood. And I spent many years there. And so I've always kind of worked for someone. And to be honest, it's always been like each company, I feel, has been very corporate, very corporate. I'm not a corporate guy. And I think anybody who has an artistic bone in their body and soul knows that and feels that corporate world and artisticness and artistic mindsets don't really gel well. Like, you know, there's been incidences in the past where we have monthly meetings and it's all about pie charts and pie graphs and we need to do this and we need to sell that and this is our brand new target. And every time we had one, I was just like, this is just stupid. This is stupid. It's like, I don't think it mixes into our world. Our world is very emotional led. You can't be going out there selling SMP as a tactic. It's the client doesn't need to be hoodwinked to get the SMP treatment. They need to be convinced they want it. So that's why I've got a very tattoo artist mindset. I was like, I do my work. Here's my piece of art. And if you like it and you navigate towards it and go, Paul, I want that, that's how that journey should be. Yes, with education, and you tell them the step-by-steps and you manage expectations and you're not afraid to say no when someone asks for something ridiculous. So it's about being ethical, where I felt like in the corporate world, there was a lot of pressure and I decided, you know, I've got no future here. This is not my way of doing things. I don't like it. And it's mad. I never had the confidence for such a long time to set up my own business, because I was, like I said, I'm an artist. I'm not a businessman at all. And I was just so scared. And it was only when I had my second child, Nova, my daughter, where I was like, you know what? I've got to do something for myself and for my family. I've got to like take my own destiny in my own hands and go for it. I can't rely on people to make me better with the hope that they are in the same vision, which they weren't, and I felt like didn't have the same drive as me. So that's when I was like, you know what, this is it. I've got to do it. It's now or never, because if I never do it now, I'm going to be in an early grave and always say to myself, you should have done it. And I would have died of regret. So it was like having my second child, Nova. I was like, you know what, F it. I nearly swore there. I don't know what kind of podcast this is, but now is the time to do it. And I'm so glad I did. You know, and I think sometimes I've been on a bit of a soul search and identity, like to find out who I am as a business owner. And I thought I had to be a little bit this and a little bit corporate and a bit up a stiffer lip kind of way. But actually, what I'm noticing is that just being myself is unique enough, and having my own approach with this, and almost like what you've learned from other people is like, even if I don't use that tactic, I know not to use that tactic because it doesn't work for me. So I've been on a very emotional journey to find out who I am, which is mad in the world of SMP. Like, I know I'm a good artist and I know I can look after people, but then I've had to look at this whole new aspect of myself as an artist and a business owner. And right now, I frigging love it. I absolutely love it. I've got all the creative freedom in the world. I feel like I've had this new release of life. Like this, someone's just injected me with more passion and more dedication. And I've just gone a bit crazy and a bit wild. And I just love that. And I've just got no boundaries, and I've got no one saying, or maybe next month, or we haven't got the budget for this month. And I'm just like, oh, now I don't have to worry about that. I can just do it. Everything I'm doing at the moment, I feel like is really helping and pushing me forward, and actually feel like pushing the industry forward as well. So yeah, blackout moment again.
I've seen your Instagram stuff. It's definitely good, and I think you've probably got really good timing because, like you said, like it's the age of the personal brand now as well, where like, you know, people do business with the person. They don't necessarily want like a logo company
Yeah.
sort of profile. They want to
Yeah.
see, you know, Paul. What's Paul's day like? What does he
Yeah.
do? You know, that kind of identification.
What's cool is, just give you a little history of what Legends is. Legends is, a lot of people assume that I'm the legend, where when I was navigating from Brandwood into departing, part of the departing process, unfortunately, I didn't own any of my intellectual property, didn't own any pictures. So I had to delete a lot, which was very, very fucked up. It was a fucked up process for me because it was almost like I had an art gallery and then I had to put a flamethrower on and then torch everything and eradicate everything. And that really hit me hard, man. Like, I was just like, I know it's their process and it, you know, it is what it is and that's that. But for me, emotionally and mentally, that really took a massive dig for me. And I had people reaching out to me saying, oh, I think your Instagram's been hacked. Your pictures are going. My reference pictures, what I saved, are going. I hope everything's all right. And I was like, no, like, no, don't worry about it. This is part of my leaving process. And then when I announced I was gone, and when I actually went and I had no legal binding contract with Brownwood anymore, and I was just by myself, and I was going through this limbo phase where I'm like, I'm just kind of go into my house, sanctuary, do a bit of soul searching and find my journey. And I remember just sitting outside thinking, what's my next path here, where I'm going to go. And my phone just went ping, 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 ping. And I was like, this is weird. And my phone just started lighting up with all these DMs and going, hey, man, I thought you might want this for your new business adventure. Here's a picture of me on holiday. Here's a picture of me and my kid. And I was just like, oh, my God. Like, my clients here have just gave me a portfolio that did not exist a couple of weeks. You know, I went into the world 15 years coming up to 15 years in this industry. And I went on my own. I had no portfolio, a few little pictures. And then all of a sudden I was thinking about my next move and all my clients were sending me pictures. And I was just like, oh my God. I was getting quite emotional. I was like, these people just gave me one of the best gifts in the world. They've gave me an opportunity to show my work. So I was going, oh, mate, you're an absolute legend. You're a legend. You're this. And I was like, hold on. Legends is my clients. My clients are the legends. If it weren't for you, like, you wouldn't have gave me the stepping stone to move in the direction where I am. So legends is not about me. Legends are my clients. It's a term of endearment. And I always say to my clients, thank you. You're an absolute legend. So that's a little bit of a short story about why Legends is called Legends.
It's good that the continued support that you get. I think that just shows, you know, the positive change that obviously it made to them and continues to, you know, obviously make to them, that they're going to reach out and do that. I think that's, yeah, because like portfolio and reviews are very important, especially when people are just like looking in the search, and it's what people, especially if they're new to SMP and might not necessarily know you by name, they're still going to need to see that before like they come and start checking you out if they're new. So, yeah, I think that would have been a big struggle there. Okay, so let's what should we go? Let's talk training. So obviously you did it quite a, you know, do it yourself, learn yourself, and essentially wrote the trainings. And what does the training process becoming an SMP artist involve like now, or sort of should it involve, do you think?
Very good word. What it should involve. I'm gonna have a blackout moment again here.
Blackout moment. Yeah, what should it? We'll start diplomatically. What should it?
Get comfy. Everybody get comfy. Just your asses for a second and get comfy. Nuzzle down into your sofas. So, yeah, like the evolution of training for me was I was made head trainer within 2 weeks of being new to SMP. And back then it was the best kept secret. No one was going to learn my technique. The company was like, boom, the iron gates are closed. Whoever comes in stays in. You're a lifer. You're not going anywhere. And people came in and they said to me, right, we've got this new person. You need to train them up. How long do you need? You know, I come from a tattoo world. I was on my way starting a 2-year apprenticeship. 2 years, non-paid, cleaning sofas, welcoming clients, cleaning downs, stenciling out. You know what I mean? I did everything. And I was thinking, well, in the tattoo world, you know, 2 years. But they were like, well, I said 6 months. I was just thinking 6 months, and they were like, could we do 3 months? And I was like, well, you're the boss, you know. I was like, yeah, we can give it a go, but I'd feel better for 6 months. And they're like, well, let's try 3 months. Okay, so that was kind of forced upon me. And, you know, I've trained the likes of Matt Ilulo, Damon Ashcroft, Danny Wynn, Magic Mike. You know, I've trained some amazing artists in the world. And, you know, they had this 3-month training program. And what would happen is after them 3 months, them artists would be basically set up their own location. So, for instance, like Matt was like sent to New York. I think it was actually sent somewhere earlier in that, but he was sent to New York. Let's say New York, because I can't really remember where it was. And that was it. He had to set up a business or straight away kind of thing. And what was amazing is that even though I had 3 months with him and, you know, 5 days a week, you know, from 9 till 5 every day, you know, at the end of them 3 months, he had a very large amount of skill set to tackle a lot of clients and clients' needs and stuff like that. So he's very competent to the point where I would say he's like 95% competent to start and tackle all sorts of hair loss. So that was that. Now, you know, I'll hold my hand up here. You know, that changed. And when I joined Brandwood, we looked at, well, when we set up Brandwood, we looked at training and what it could be and what it could do and what are the possibilities. And we said, oh, let's do 5 days. Let's do 5 days. Let's give it a trial run. And that was very successful. Very, very successful. And I'm giving you the story because it's going to give us some content what I'm landed on to this day. So that was very successful. And then we noticed other training companies were doing 1 day, 2 days, 30 seconds, like just loads of variation. Just look at the manual and you're trained kind of training programs. And what we know is that when we was getting inquiries and we was telling people that our training was 5 days, students were going, oh, that's way too long. So that was mad. And then all of a sudden, like, it was like we had to change our model because we was losing out on students who didn't want to train for 5 days. They wanted to train for 2 or 3 days. So I think we went down to 4 or 3 days. And then that method and that logic just stayed. And then so many training companies kept on doing that on 3 days. And it was just everywhere you looked, everybody was doing 3-day training. And then for me, if I fast forward to like modern days, you know, and don't get me wrong, in some of them short training programs, stars were born in the SMP world. Okay, it's not a black and white answer to can you be successful with a 3-day training program, because artists have been, but I think the reason why these artists come out the other end is about passion, dedication, a bit of artistic capability, and the drive to continue the learning. And I think they go through a process. So even when they're done with a 3 or 4 day training, they've still got the fire and passion to continue going. So you can't say that the 3-day training programs kind of don't work or do work. But one thing I can say for sure, guarantee, is you don't know everything about SMP. And I've been coming to this conclusion for a long time. And like anything, you create your trial, and then you see, and then you evaluate, is this good enough to continue? And I came to the realization that it's not, because with that and all these training academies churning out students who have been doing it for a day or 2 days, and it's not their fault that they are churning out bad work. It starts from education, and it is a bit part like they've got to take the passion on and the drive to do it, not just see it as a quick earner. I noticed that so many people will come in for SMP rescue, Now, to give you an insight, back in the day, probably about 6 years ago, SMP Rescue was the fourth most requested treatment for me. Now, SMP Rescue is my second most requested treatment. That's a huge leap, man. And I'm noticing that a lot of people hurt, damage, people are depressed. And I'm saying to them, like, where do you get this done? And it was just, I do a bit of research and I find out that, you go all the way down to their Instagram, trained in 2019 or whatever, or 2021. And then you scroll to the top and they've been doing it for like, not that long at all. So I'm like, okay, so the training side doesn't give all the student all the information. And what's happening is that people are getting hurt from quick students learning in and out and doing what they're doing. So I started kind of painting this picture where I don't think 3-day training, 2-day training is a positive thing. I think it's more of anything a hindrance to this industry, because I understand everybody's got to start from somewhere, but unfortunately a lot of people don't have an ethical compass. So for instance, if anybody now who's a student listen to this, what you should do is tell people that you're an up-and-coming artist, you've just learned the skill set, you're lowering your rates, and that you've got a really good discounted rate because you're learning, right? Same way as a tattoo artist. You come to the tattoo world, you're not charging day rates for £1,000. You're doing little tattoos for like 30 quid an hour, 20 quid an hour. Do you know what I mean? But that person knows that you're up and coming, you're an apprentice, you're learning. But unfortunately, what I hear most of the time is someone comes in the industry, a week later, they get a fancy new website, they got a fancy new clinic, someone comes in, how much is it? £500, £700. How much experience have you got? I've got 3 years experience. Technically, they've got 2 weeks hands-on tools experience. But what they're doing, this is very cheeky, they classify their own SMP as experience. So they had SMP 3 years down the line, brought back, but they use that as experience, and then they latch on these 2-day training. So I've got 3 days training. 3 years experience. Well, actually, they got 2 weeks hands-on tools. So the narrative has changed, and that mindset and them individuals are hurting this industry now, because you've got a lot of people doing that. And so, yeah, this is why I'm just, this is my opinion. I don't expect everybody to believe what I'm saying. I don't expect anybody to agree with what I'm saying. This is what I feel like is my own truth. You can either take it or leave it, simple as. But I don't think 3-day training program is beneficial to this industry. I think it's going to kill it. I think it's going to ruin it with the reasons why I've just said. And if we continue down this path, and I think I'm a bit more emotionally connected because I've helped build it up, and now I've seen it go slightly down because I'm seeing so much bad work out there. And I don't know if who's to blame? Is it the artist? Is it the educator? How much further education going on? But all I can tell people from my experience is when I trained someone for 3 months, they were capable with minor discrepancies, not compared to what I'm seeing right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think it is right in what you're saying where it hurts, because I think, like we said earlier, where SMP is still new in terms of getting known. So you're having a lot of those negative treatments getting seen as much as the good treatments. You're turning those new people away basically before they've really had a chance to
Yeah.
look at it. And I think, I think it is a bit of a money. There is a bit of a money grab in the training. Probably what I've seen is the worst thing that happened since I've been in it. And obviously, to be honest, when I first started, I was probably a bit guilty coming from a marketing side of doing some of the headlines at the start. I've kind of moved a little bit away from that now. But people find it's easier to sell training courses than it is to actually get new clients. So I think that for me is the biggest problem I've seen in training is anyone can become a trainer basically. So they'll maybe come, do a couple of heads, realize actually it's hard to get clients. I can actually just go and call myself a trainer and show someone else what to do. And yeah, I've seen a lot of that. And I think that's probably one of the more damaging things. Then you've got people with lack of experience, training people with lack of experience, and it's kind of compounding. And then you've also got loads of people in the same area,
And
like
you've got
competing.
students training students.
Yeah.
Like there's been so many times where I've caught wind about what's going on, and I can. It only takes a little bit of digging, people. So people who are doing this, you will get caught out because I found out who you are. I'm not going to name and shame, not my style, but I can see their professional career in just a few scrolls from learning to teaching, which is crazy. Because I think even for you to even contemplate becoming a teacher in this, you've got to be 5 years in on the front line of doing SMP, learning all different skin types, textures of the skin, clients' needs, color theory. Like there's so much you got to take in, and you think you can train people within 4 weeks of doing it? It's ludicrous. And I want to, there's two realities here. And I don't know if you have a comment section, but this would be fun. If anybody put in your comments of which reality would be better. We're living in we're in a reality now where more people are hurt by ill-skilled practitioners than ever before. I know that because I've been in this industry nearly 15 years. I've never seen people get hurt as much as I am right now. It's crazy and it's scary. And we know what's happening. When I did that little professional rant on Instagram about training, just to get us talking about it, rather than just put up and show up. Let's start talking, having a conversation. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, awesome. But we know the reality of what we're dealing with now, and no one's happy. No one's happy. And all the feedback what I had, no one is happy with what's going on. But imagine this reality, that us teachers and educators take someone on for 6 months to 12 months. And then that artist becomes very established, very educated on the process, and they move on as an artist. But then they churn out amazing work because they've got 99.9% of the information and the education, and they're competent enough to take from someone from hair loss to confidence without any issues. And then that person goes, I'm going to set up my own training now, 5 years on, if he's doing it ethically or her doing it ethically. And they take on the student and they go, you know what? I went through a 6 month, 12-month program. I'm going to do the same for you. So you're going to jump through the same hoops that I did because I want to know how passionate and dedicated you are like me. And then what we're doing is replicating like-minded people. So we're having more dedication, more people willing to graft, more people willing to earn their stripes and stuff like that to do best for themselves and their clients. Then that reality, my friend, would be a whole lot better place than we are right now.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing is a bit like you said as well, and it's probably is really only going to get done like there's going to have to be like a lot of you together kind of pushing out content and education to kind of get away from it. But where like the 3 day, the 2 days kind of the norm. Because I know someone else who like you tried to kind of set up a longer course and it just wasn't financially viable because for the same reason everyone was like, oh, I can do it, for 2 days, and they don't understand the difference. So I think that's like, yeah, there has to be kind of industry education out there, like why you should have like a 6 month course versus a weekend course and why that's better for you.
Well, let's be controversial.
We like controversy.
Why is there a 3-day training program when we know factual that these students are not going to get all the information? Money.
Yeah, it's quick and easy.
Money. In, out, bum, bum. That is a big factor. It might not be all the factor, but from what I'm seeing now of all these training companies, you can clearly tell it's all about money. We're going to travel to a new city, get 20 students in. Bye. No ongoing support. Let's go to that city now, and then let's go to this conference and promote this. it's becoming a virus. And, you know, like you said, it's not financial viable to, as a business, to have a 6-month or 12-month program. But I'm setting up an apprenticeship program now, very early stages. But the blueprint is, at the moment, we have a 6-month and a 12-month program. 6 months, you're paying 25 grand to learn what we can in 6 months, and then 40 grand for 12 months. Now, I'd be happy just to have one student a year. I could make loads more money by having 8 students who are charging 3 grand and all this sort of stuff every month doing it easily. But I'd rather have that person who's dedicated and willing to jump through all them hoops to help us better the industry. You know, I wouldn't just say yes to anybody as well. I'm coming in with all of these new processes where I'm actually interviewing someone. You know, I'll interview people who want to do these apprenticeships. I'm not just going to go on through. Thank you. I'm going to be like, can I work for you for 6 months? Can I work with you for 12 months? Show me the dedication. If it's all like, yeah, I'm going to get this because I want a new Lamborghini, it's like, nah, yeah, I'm not even going to acknowledge your existence to come into this industry. And I think if we did that as a whole and made that the new narrative, oh my God, I think this industry would thrive. I genuinely think so. I genuinely think so.
It would just raise the standard. I think there's as well with, it's kind of the same in PMU as well, and you've got it from your background, but as well as the knowledge, you do need like an artistic element to you as well. I think from, there's an artistic skill.
Yeah, well, it definitely helps me, and it's definitely helped me innovate. There's a lot of artists who I know who haven't really got what you put on pen to paper artistic capability on their credentials and stuff like that, but they naturally evolve into a great artist. And what's interesting is that later down the line, they actually find an art format in their own hobby, like photography or something like that, or sculpting. And it's actually, well, you didn't know that you had an artistic capability, but SMP has helped you find one. So yeah, I generally think, are you an SMP practitioner or you're an SMP artist? You decide.
So on that, your experience and kind of from a career perspective, you kind of touched on it. What would your advice then be, other than come and do the Legends SMP apprenticeship, someone starting out in SMP, kind of what should they be looking for in the sea of trainers now, or if they're like looking to start, what should be their first priorities?
Don't until the industry gets better.
Just do what?
Sorry.
Don't take a time out. Okay, that's interesting.
Maybe don't bother coming into SMP until that we can sort ourselves out as an industry. But the layout of the land and what it is right now, find someone who's passionate about SMP, find someone who's dedicated to the craft, not just a quick wham bam, thank you, ma'am, I've got your money, see you later, you're on your own now. You've got to make sure that you've got ongoing support. But this is the playing field at the moment. There's not many big apprenticeships. None, actually, I'd say probably none. If your only option is 2-day, 3-day courses and you've just started your journey, please do not assume that you're done. You need to go to masterclasses. You need to do shadowing. You need to do more research of who, what, and where, and who's doing something different or innovative. And just don't think that you're done in like 3 days. You're going to constantly learn. I'm still learning to this day, honestly. Like, I don't ever assume that I know everything, because one client skin can just throw you off kilter. So you can't assume that you know everything. And do as much education, do as many masterclasses, build that mountain of knowledge up as you go in. As you're coming into the industry, don't act like you're here when you've just come in here. Don't do it. Be ethical. Say that I am new, I'm starting a portfolio, these are my rates. this is what I'm charging. Build from the ground up and do it the most ethically and passionate and like, you know, just look after people. Just make sure that you're taking your clients onto a journey, and you're managing their expectations, and they understand where you're coming from, so you can both work together. You know what I mean? If you're going to come out and say, you know, I've been doing this for like 5 years, and you've been doing it for 5 weeks, you're only setting yourself up to fail, because people are going to be, the clientele will look at the treatment and compare their treatment to someone else who's probably actually been doing it for 5 years and go, why does mine not look like that? And then they're going to dig deeper on you, and they're going to find out you've been doing it for 5 weeks. It always catches out. Everybody's got a ticking time clock above their head. There's so many artists I've known who've come in and they've gone out the door the same way in a matter of months. So it's like the level field what you got now, just keep on just learning and educating yourself and going. You know, I've never had my masterclass demand now is through the roof. Ever since I did that post about ongoing education, or, you know, ongoing education and stuff like that, and building yourself as an artist, I've been inundated with so many masterclass requests. And you know what's mad? So many artists are just asking for the basics, and they've just paid $3,000 for a training, and they still don't know what they're doing. So it's crazy what people are being taught and how they're not being looked after, the ongoing. So at this moment in time, as the playing field is with what we've got offered, until apprenticeships, months or years, extensive training, that's your way of doing it. And hopefully, as collective ethical artists will come out of the woodwork and start going, you know what, I agree with what Paul's saying. I'm eradicating my 3-day training program. I'm going to start looking at apprenticeships. And what's amazing is, like, I've had Kate Dawes has mentioned from Forest Inn that she's looking into months education now. And Stevie G has just announced he's doing his last 3-day fundamental course, and he's going to be looking at something a little bit longer. So even just talking about it is making us think about it. And that's all I ever want to do. I don't want to be the leader or anything. I don't want to be the face of a revolution or anything like that. I just want us to talk about it and go, is that the right way to do things? Do you know what I mean? And give people a second option.
I think, yeah, bringing that awareness to it is key. And I think it does need, like, it's good that the bigger names in SMP are starting to do it, just because you will get more, you know, attention just by virtue of that. And I think, yeah, the more people have the choices, and the buying public and your buying market have the two choices, some people will still make the quick choice, but you're going to create the market and the need for the better training. And then over time, the quality of work should speak for itself. Like, you'll start to sort of see a divide. What's the difference? Yeah, 3-day training, 6-month training, apprenticeship. And I think the more of you who do it as well, just from a marketing view, it'll kind of become an easier sell, because you can position yourself easier against. It's not just like one person telling you have to do it for a long time, and kind of people thinking like, why, you know, you're making me take long.
Unfortunately, I don't think my vision is going to be the norm. It makes me sad to think that, because you got business like my people say this is not going to make us money.
Yeah.
And maybe I've got the wrong logic, that I'm not thinking that I should be churning students in and out just to make thousands of pounds every month. But I'm only driven by art and passion, and I want someone to do as good as I am doing. And the only way I know how to do that is what I've got in my head. So, you know, this is what I said to you. I'm on a journey of like trying to find out who I am as a business person. And I think I'm not led as business. I'm led by what I think is right artistically. And I don't give a shit if I don't get someone. So I've got my 6-month apprenticeship program, and I don't get anybody for 6 years, and I just get one. I'd be so happy with that. Because I feel like I'm doing right by that person. You know, I'm doing this not to get rich or anything like that. I'm just going to say, look, there's an alternative training here. It's very much there. If someone comes across it and wants it, awesome. They're going to go on an amazing self-discovery and educational process that I can ever give them. But if it doesn't happen for 6 years, I don't give a shit. I'm so busy with clientele anyway. Like that's my bread and butter. At the moment, I'm not passionate about education because I want to do this. Once I'm doing this, my passion will be coming out as being an educator. So at the moment, I'm full gear into helping as many people as I can.
It's interesting, although it's like, yeah, there's the business argument for the short, but I think again that's short-sighted business for the industry as a whole, and for being in, being an artist and a trainer for the long term, and obviously having more. And then I also think if the apprenticeship sort of model gets, you will attract a different kind of people. And I also think in the UK, what happens is obviously you train, 10 people a weekend. You've got at least 5 new competitors in your city coming in like a month, which is like depressing prices. Obviously, you've got the price wars. Whereas I think if you have like more of an apprenticeship model, you've got that long term. A certain amount of the apprentice will actually retain with the company they train with because it's kind of like a different mindset, and you'll actually
Yeah.
have like a bigger sort of almost franchise brand model with like you can go into Legends SMP, say in Birmingham, London, or Southampton, and get the same quality of work no matter where, and like the same for another few brands. And I think that model, rather than a lot of small operations competing against each other, I think that's kind of a better, certainly in the UK as well, where we've kind of got a smaller concentration than maybe the US.
The tattoo world protected itself by you have to jump through the hoops. You've got to go through the sweat, pain, and tears and passion, like as any artist do. And we've kind of like, I'll put my hand up. I was part of that evolution of quick training. With the mindset of give it a go and see where it goes. And there's been some successful stories, but the tattoo world has protected its industry. We haven't. We hoard it out. We just went, there you go, 3 days, you're certified trainer. Well, yeah, trainer and bloody SMP practitioner. And it's like, that's what you said, the price wars, and it's never been more competitive than it has right now, because in Birmingham alone, where I operate, there's probably like 20, 25 SMP providers. In my little hometown, Sutton Coldfield, there's probably about 4 or 5. And it's like, it's mad because like, I can see how it's damaged because we had a really, and I still do have a prestigious price tag to this because I value my work and I know what my work does. And I think my clients are guaranteed, I know my clients are guaranteed a safe journey and a very successful result at the end of it, and very natural. But like what I noticed back in the day, it's 1 out of 10 people would haggle back in like 2016, 17, 18. Maybe 1 out of 10 people would haggle. Oh, but I've been there and they quoted that. Would you do it? And I'd be like, no, because I value my work more than that person probably values their work. And now what I'm noticing, so many clients, and it's not their fault, so many clients now are haggling. Well, I've just been someone 2 minutes down the road who have done it for £500 for 3 sessions. And I'm like, dude, have you asked why? And they're like, you're charging 2,800, you're choosing, 2,500. That's crazy. This person's charging 500. And I'm like, do you know why? Yeah, ask yourself that question. That's why I keep on saying at the moment, do it right, do it once on my posts, because my second most requested treatment now is SMP rescue. And when I do have, and I'll be honest, I do lose people from a consultation because I am too expensive. But you know what happens? 6 months down the line, Paul, I need SMP rescue. The amount of times that has happened is ludicrous. And it's not the client's fault, that yet they have to accept some kind of responsibility that they may have not done some research, or just assume that it's just a couple of dots thrown on the head. You don't need to be an artist. You just go, But that's what's happening. these quick training programs are churning out people who may. I think there's a small amount of people who really care, and there's a bigger portion of people who don't care. Simple as. And I think the bigger portion of people who are coming in thicker and faster now, seeing that they can get a Lamborghini in the first year of doing training, you know, like the first year of just doing SMP. I think they've come through and slightly changing the narrative. And I take it a little bit personal because I worked my goujons off to get this. That's a family eating joke from Chicken Run. Mind the goujons. But I've worked my butt off to get SMP to a place where I feel like it's taken seriously, where to the point where hair transplant surgeons would never recommend me for a hair loss solution. But now I do natural hairlines and I can create realism. I'm getting hair transplant surgeons left, right, and center saying this person's not suitable for hair transplant. You have it. Do you know how hard that took? How long that took to get to that destination? So hard, man. So hard. And now what I'm seeing is the dark cloud of SMP and all the shit work falling down from the crappy rain clouds of SMP, and it's changing the narrative and it's changing the industry. Just do it. Little thing you could do at home now. If you type in scalp micropigmentation on Google Images, you'll see more shit than you will see good. So that's why I get a bit personal and a bit ranty. Get a little bit ranty.
Yeah, I mean,
this is water, by the way. Don't let the glass fall.
Yeah, straight vodka. Okay, so yeah, let's bring the rants down a little bit now. Because there is happy stuff going on in SMP as well. So maybe let's look a little bit as, you know, why we've got you here.
Yes.
Maybe for people who are thinking of getting SMP and a bit more around the client. So let's know some of the questions that come up quite a lot are kind of longevity and the aftercare. So how long does it last? What's it going to look like, you know, after several years, and the aftercare advice for someone who's getting SMP? What are some considerations people should think around that?
Yeah, just to touch on what you said right at the beginning there, it's like it's not all doom and gloom, but I feel like because I am in a position in my career where my voice does carry some impact, platforms like this are great because it's just airing out what people don't want to hear or not even thought about, and we need to talk. But at the same breath, that SMP, if done right, I genuinely believe is the #1 hair loss solution, 100%. I've seen day in, day out how people are coming to my clinic, broken individuals with no confidence, and after by 2 sessions, they're a new person. So anybody who's watching this and thinking about getting SMP, all you've got to do is do extensive research, not just quick research, extensive research. Look at portfolios, look at the consistencies, zoom in as much detail as possible, and then you will find the artist who will take your confidence to the next level. So SMP is not all doom and gloom, but for clients, you do need to be more savvy than anything right now. Regarding aftercare, so generally what I noticed in my career that, you know, after you have 3 to 4 sessions with myself, you're looking to have a top up anywhere between 2.5, 3 years. That can actually be longer if you maintain good aftercare, like factor 50, alternate between sunscreen and hat, wearing a hat during strong sun, you know, moisturizing it once a night, that really helps. So really you just got to look after your skin. And sometimes I've seen people 6 years down the line and the treatment looks banging. It looks amazing. And I'm like, what is your secret? And everybody always says factor 50, and I wear a hat at lunchtime and take it off again and factor 50 again. So, you know, when you're looking into SMP and you're thinking about top-ups and how much maintenance, really, if it's done properly, it's very low maintenance. And when you have a top-up, you should only have, unless you've got significant fading or something bad has happened, but if you feel like your work is mostly there, it should be about a 2-hour max top-up, just refreshing some of the faded and just going over and rejuvenizing, not oversaturating and going in between and just milking clients for their time and money. It's if it's done correctly, it's a very minimal maintenance going forward compared to some hair loss solutions where you need drugs and, you know, all this sort of stuff, a lot of downtime. I'm not knocking them, but I personally wouldn't want to be taking supplements and drugs and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more permanent solutions, and it actually works. Like, there's not
Mm.
done right and done by the right artist. You do have a guaranteed solution. So on that, like, how does someone know if they're like a good candidate for SMP if they're kind of looking at hair loss? Like, who's a really good candidate? Is there anyone who's maybe not suitable, or should they just like get a consultation?
Yeah. So, SMP can help all forms of hair loss and different categories. One thing what's really difficult is when someone wants densification work. I generally believe it's not as good as what people make it out to be on Instagram. I think a lot of people are using images straight after the treatment, looking dark, looking black, and going, that is healed work, when in reality, that's going to soften down to an ashy grey. So density-wise, you've got to really be very selectful, and I generally think you've got to manage expectations, like really manage expectations. A lot of the clientele come from hair fibers, and hair fibers create a massive mound of darkness because it latches onto hairs and creates a bridge, and it hides the scalp. And if anybody's coming from that world looking think SMP will do the same, it won't. You've got to ask yourself, how does that ash grey connect to brown hair on pale skin? It's not going to connect that great. If you've gone really far on the crown, or you've gone really far on the top of the scalp, you've got to think about how the hair towers over the scalp and how it disconnects. So, don't rush into thinking that if you're thinning, SMP is going to be your savior, because you have to be. For me, I'm very selective. And if people can't match my mindset where I say, look, SMP will only slightly help in some cases, but it's not going to match fibers. And then my clients are like, yeah, that's cool. I just need something just to blunten off that skin tone. Then I can work with that individual because I've managed their expectations. If anything, I could lose that client because I've undersold SMP. But generally, that's what I believe, what some people need to be told if you're going to work with them. But I think anybody who's like a Norwood 7 down to Norwood 5, it's a major game changer. Anybody with alopecia, I've done a lot of alopecia clients, and what they say is like, they don't feel like a victim anymore. They feel like they've chosen a style preference, which is amazing. So, SMP is a great hair loss solution for everybody, but just do your research. Use your mind to think, if I'm thinning here, how's it going to work? Don't let people just say it's going to be black or it's going to brown and it's going to hold like that forever, because it doesn't. You've got to, as a client, do your research. But yeah, it does treat and help a lot of people.
We touched, I know you've mentioned the cost a little bit before. So for someone doing price shopping, looking around, how should they weigh the sort of benefits of SMP against that cost?
So the higher you pay, what do you get for the value of money? Or
so even the highest they pay, like even if we just assume a sort of industry average, just obviously
yeah,
it's got a certain cost to it, but just like what's the benefit they're going to get off the SPVs?
well, it's again, I don't know if I'm your worst nightmare for this podcast, because I just say how it is. Paying for a higher price tag doesn't mean you're guaranteed to have the best artists. Unfortunately, some of my SMP rescue jobs, people have put their faith into artists with a fake reputation and been charged for it and come out looking horrendous. So, I would say, most high up artists in the UK are charging over 2,500 for a Norwood 7. It's somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 for a Norwood 7. The higher up artists, the ones who you can constantly see consistent results from, good results day in, day out. But like I said, you have to do your research, because like I said, I do SMP rescue, and I had someone recently who paid over $3,000 for SMP, and I could barely see anything apart from the blowouts. Everything else was so weak apart from 6 major blowouts. And I was like, how much you paid for this? 3 grand. I'm like, oh my God. Like, how many years experience this person got? 12. I'm like, what the hell? So it sounds scary, and it is, but you have to do your research, and if you're new coming into this and you want to build up your portfolio, you should be looking at a couple of hundred to build this up. You don't be charging £1,500 straight off. You've got to build up such a mountain of work to get this done. But then again, there's artists who do charge less, and they are good artists, and they're happy charging less because maybe the overheads are little. I don't know. It's up to whoever. But I would say standard kind of is for Norwood 7, just the hair on the sides, nothing on top. Anywhere above 2,500.
And also, normally your name gets mentioned quite a lot when I ask this question to other ones in a positive way. But are there any artists or colleagues in the UK who you kind of admire, who are doing good work in the SMP? So maybe, what sets their work apart? Who do you still look to in the industry and think, hey, they're doing great work?
The UK is really good at the moment. The UK is really good. There's a lot of good artists out there. I'm a fan of Will Quay's work, Mark Allen's work, Craig Bottomley High. Who else in the UK? My mind's gone blank. There's guys in America, Matt Olulo, Ollie Hughes, in the UK. He's a great artist. You've got people like Matt Olulo, John Giroux, John Chandler, Ryan Kingsbury, Magic Mike, Dave Hoffer, Michelle Stell. There's so many. There are amazing artists out there, and we're all different, and we all bring something a little bit different to the table. That's why I say this is art. It's subjective. It's down to the beholder of the eye, what they see. So there are good artists out there, but yeah. So there's a few. There's quite a few.
List people,
there's loads.
People can get on Google and have a look at them
Honestly,
if you're not near Birmingham.
Yeah. There's no one in Birmingham. No, but there's like anything, I can't be the only good artist out there. It's like the tattoo world. You have two tattoo artists who do a rose differently. Someone might like how ragged or scratchy or that looks, and someone goes, I like how fine art that is and how how natural that is. It's everybody's different, and I'd be a fool to think that I'm the only good SMP artist in the world. And I'm not arrogant enough to say that I'm the best in the world. I don't say shit like that. I let my clients say stuff like that. I'm not that arrogant. Vodka.
And then so lastly, Legends SMP. Is there anything else particular you want to mention about Legends, what you do there, other than sort of great SMP? What's what's the experience going to be for people coming there?
Well, I touched on it earlier. I'm not bashing anybody else. I'm just talking about what I do as an individual and what my team is. It's a family-run business. Me and my girlfriend, Claire Tonks, is, by the way, my saviour. Like, honestly, if it weren't for Claire Tonks, the overwhelming support, inspiration and power she gives me is like amazing. When I feel down, she brings me back up. So we are very, she's an artist as well. She's an incredible artist, and we're very artistic led, and we're very compassionate and empathetic people. And I feel like together we bring that into our business model. You're not just a number with Legends, you're a work of art. I don't give a shit if it takes 6 sessions. Like, I will continue to work with you until the job's done, until I can give you my seal of approval and go job satisfaction, like that is done. So I feel like that our clients have a very bespoke, personal experience with us. It's just myself at the moment. I do have a lot of artists reaching out, come to join me. No one's made the cut yet, because I'm looking for very unique individuals who share my motto. And I want to do that. I want to bring new people into the industry who share my passion and dedication. But yeah, you're just not a number with Legends. We take your appearance so important. We want to be part of a positive story, not a negative one. And yeah, we're just here to make your lives either gigantic improvement, or a little significant, little tiny one. I don't know, but we're here just to help people. And I'm here to show the world that SMP is badass. I'm here to show the world that SMP is going to be the #1 hair loss solution. And I'm here to prove to the world that it's more than just a head tattoo. It's a work of art. And, if it's done correctly, it can be life-changing. So that's a little bit who we are. Artistic-led, passion, dedication to the max, so we're reaching out of our eyeballs. And yeah, that's us.
And there will be, wherever you're watching this, there's going to be links to the website and Paul's socials, so you can connect with him and DM him and ask him all questions. Whether you're an artist or a client, I'm sure you reach out. Drop anything in the comments. If I can answer it, I will. If not, I'm sure Paul will help me if I annoy him in Messenger.
This is where you start asking for referrals, isn't it?
Yeah. So anything else you want to share with the audience before we go?
Yeah, just to understand why I probably tell people why I'm probably speaking like this is because I felt like I've had a voice, but I felt like I've always been kept on a leash. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like now people need to speak about what actually, happens in the world of the SMP. Start revealing the secrets so we can start talking and collaborating and making a better future for SMP. So I don't want people to think that I'm being negative. I'm just basically making people think in different ways, try to think in different ways and consider different way of thinking. I do generally think SMP is incredible. I think it's amazing. I love what I do. And if anybody's struggling with bad training, lost artists who are lost, or anybody who needs SMP rescue, or just anything, man, just get in touch with me. Like I said, I'm a bit of an empath. It's a blessing and a curse, but I'm always helping people, even if it's not SMP, and if it's a laser technician recommendation, I'm here to help. So I'm very active on Instagram more than anything, so drop me a message on there. But yeah, SMP absolute rules, and we're better than anybody.
Legends. Hey, thank you for your time, Paul. Been great speaking to you. And yeah.